So we're all being educated today, because I did not know about this.
There you go. Well, that's why you bring me in here, to give you all the inside secrets.
Is this just with a hire purchase agreement, or is it with if you've taken car finance from a bank?
You see, a lot of the things that invoke certain conditions are really about the type of buyer. So if you're a consumer, you have a certain set of rights. If you buy something as a business, you don't necessarily have that set of rights. And you see that in property, that certain protections are offered to homeowners, whereas investors don't get them. And this is the same. It's really for consumers who buy cars for personal use. Those agreements generally tend to be a hire purchase agreement. And what the half rule means is that the entire cost of the finance package, including all the interest and setup fees, once you get to the halfway point, you can actually just hand back the car. Okay. And what we find in our firm day to day when we're helping people who have money problems is it's not necessarily that they say, oh, I've just got a car payment problem, or I just can't pay my mortgage. It's actually a series of things, and when you add them all up, it makes their situation unsustainable. And this is one of those, insider tips that you can use that will get a huge monkey off your back if you need it. And you could opt to get a different type of car, an older car, some model that is more within your affordability if you have one that you can't afford. So it's very important, and people should know about it, because it is actually one of those hidden gems that could make a big difference to your finances.
Are there any penalties if you do the half rule?
Well, if the car has damage, you obviously have to hand it back in working order. But the other thing I would say is that say if you're not there yet, say if you had to make another €1,000 worth of payments before you could do it, if you had €1,000, you can actually hand back the car with €1,000. So you can actually buy your way into it, and that's something that's important to realise. Now, once you pass it, you don't
get your money back.
No, it doesn't work like that. It just you have it exactly. It's kind of a one-way thing. Yeah. But if your car payments are killing you, absolutely look into your loan documents, see if you can use the half rule.
Because the amount of people who will take a personal loan to buy a car, they obviously wouldn't be able to make use of this.
No, typically these agreements are actually set up through garages, and they would then deal with the financing company. So if you go out and take just a regular personal loan, they wouldn't necessarily have the effective deeds of the car.
So it has to be through a car finance package.
Yeah,
precisely.
So it goes back to the garage then, and then the garage will sell it off probably at...
Well, it goes back to the finance company, whoever the financing company choose to use. And I would say, even if you get it through a bank, it can still quite often be a hire purchase as long as it's a car loan. But if you just said, I want a personal loan, or if you got your loan from a credit union, for instance, this then doesn't apply. It is actually important that you use a certain type of financing. The good news being, if you're buying a car finance is appropriate, because it's actually priced around what you'd be doing with one of those other choices anyway.
In some cases, when people are buying a car, and if they are buying it hire purchase, there might be balloon payments involved. So will that skew that halfway point?
No, the halfway point is set out in advance. So if you had a balloon payment at the end, what would happen in that instance would be that your halfway point would actually be further on down the line than what you thought. It's not just a case that you make 50% of the payments, it's 50% of the total cost.
Okay.
So that's the thing to bear in mind. 50% of the total cost, not 50% of the duration of time. Okay. So once you can figure it out, it's in the loan documents, you've got your figure.
Okay, Carl, moving on, could lower energy prices be on the way? Did crude oil experience a drop there last month?
Yeah, well, depending on what you think, some people think that crude oil went too high, others feel that crude oil has bubbled off a bit.
If you pardon
what I would say, yeah, sorry, my jokes get worse every week. But we've seen big spikes in oil prices in the past. Back in 2008, oil was $147 a barrel. People were saying, "Oh, it's going to go to 200. We're running out of oil." What tends to happen, though, is you have these periods of higher demand, and certainly coming into the summer, you will see that in many instances with warm weather, that home heating oil is less in demand, that people might be traveling less. They're saying that things like problems in the Eurozone lead to a decrease in oil demand. And as well as that, there's no one trying to shut off demand. So, or to shut off supply to meet the existing demand, which at the moment is about 85 million barrels a day. So there's an impressive amount of oil slushing around the world, and shipping rates aren't going up. So there's a lot of things that play into having slightly lower energy costs. The problem, I think, from everyone's point of view who buys petrol, is that you won't necessarily see this passed on to you too quickly, but when prices rise, it comes through very fast.
Well, there was a 12% drop last month, but that was just 1 month. Obviously, we need that to happen 3 months in a row.
Yeah, you see, that's a drop in the actual price, but that doesn't reach the pump, because when people are buying to get oil distillate, which we call petrol and put in our cars, they're buying that long in advance. So they're buying on a price that was already set a long time ago. And that's why sometimes you hear airlines saying, oh, we had to push up our price because we bought all our fuel for our planes at one amount, and now it's gone up and we hadn't hedged or done any of this kind of stuff. Really what they're saying is that we hadn't ensured that we have a certain price for a certain amount of time, and so that causes the change in prices. If prices stay low for another month or two, it'll be great news. It'll probably pass through to the pump. The bad news is that, you know, come year end, we've got another budget, and typically a lot of the inflation in petrol prices in Ireland is actually tax.
Yeah.
You know, 2 years ago, 8 cents a litre, that pushed it right up.
I've holidayed in America, and I've spoken about this with so many Americans who said if we paid those prices, people wouldn't drive cars in this country.
Yeah, my little brother just went back to Arkansas, and he's complaining about $3 a gallon, which, you know, if we could get here, I'd probably try and drive a Hummer. I mean, you know, as it is, I'm trying to walk places because of the price of petrol. Okay. It's really extortionate. As in fact, if you look at the price of petrol in this country, like over €1 of it almost is just tax. So when you think about, oh, you know, big oil companies, whatever about them, I mean, at least they're pulling it up out of the ground. At least they're, you know, getting it from wherever it comes to end user and doing all the hard work. The bit that gets me the most is the fact that there's over €1 of tax in it, and that's just for nothing, just because.
Okay, finally moving on. Yesterday was the deadline for the property levy.
It is. So if you haven't filed your return and you're hearing this for the first time, you're probably in trouble. Or you'll have to do it online, in which case you've got until the 28th of May.
Yeah, the deadline was for by post yesterday, wasn't it?
That's right.
And if you haven't done it by post, what's going to happen?
Well, then you're going to have to basically pay it online, or you know, do the online return. The way it works with revenue, they always have these two-tiered systems. One is for if you want to fill in things by paper and submit it through post. The other is online. So you see it as well with income tax deadlines. The actual deadline is the end of October, but the online deadline is halfway through November. And I'll tell you this, like the last week in October is nowhere near as busy as the first 2 weeks in November. I don't know what it is, but people naturally just do not want to pay their taxes until such time as the deadline of deadlines has come. And I suspect this one will be the same. Now, there is a huge amount of access to broadband, and for people who are older and might not know how to use it, quite often they have children. There's lots of different ways you can pay this. At the post office, you can do it. They've done everything. They've pulled out all the stops. I mean, you can do it by wage garnish. You can do it through, I think, automatic machines as well. So really they're trying to make it as easy as possible for people so that they don't have to invoke the enforcement measures, which is the kind of the nice speak for the cruel things that happen to you if you don't obey.
Yeah, okay. So May 28th.
May 28th. Make sure you do it online. I'm going to do everything that we help our clients with online anyway, so it's a good method. It's less hassle, and so you don't have to be too afraid. Yes, you missed the deadline, but not like the deadline of deadlines.
Okay.
Okay.
Carl, thanks so much. Good to see you again.
You too.
Now, after the break, I'll be meeting the 82-year-old man who